to go.
Hi
Hi.
everybody,
Hello.
and nice to meet you this week. And it's great to start our program, weekly program. And I'm Svetlana Solomatova. I'm from Ukraine, and we initiate this program together with IF Africa with John Corwell. And this is our seventh conversation, and we are going to lead this global dialogue. And we have a hope that more and more countries will join us. And we are ready to talk of different topics, but main topic for us for this global dialogue is discrimination. And today we are going to talk about role of women in development of local communities. And today we have special facilitator, and this is Nency. Nency, you are welcome. Thank you for you agree to lead this conversation. Nency?
Thank you, Svetlana. Is that all on your highlights for the week so that we move to Anu? Hello?
Nancy,
Hello?
do you want me?
Hello? Yeah, that's Anu.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, do I need to reintroduce myself? I think I know everybody on the
No,
group, and
just
everybody
highlight.
knows me. Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
introduce yourself.
reintroduce. Okay. So, my name is Anupama. People call me Anu, and I think most of you will call me Anu. I'm from Mumbai, India. And I actually run an organization called In Harmony. We primarily work with corporates in the area of diversity and inclusion and employee wellness. So that's my background. I have a partner, Deepa, who is usually on the call, but we have various commitments. So we've just decided that we'll take turns to be on the call so that we are able to balance our client commitments as well as be part of such an interesting dialogue that's happening on a weekly basis. Um, so regarding our week, actually almost 2 weeks, I think, since I have been on this discussion. Um, Not much happened, except that I had one meeting with a very interesting client who very seriously uses customer insighting to build inclusiveness in the way they deliver the service. So India is a very diverse country. You know, we have 28 states with their own unique culture, so many languages, 22 languages with, I don't know, so many dialects in thousands they run. And so we are, you know, diversity exists here. So this organization does very serious customer insighting and sees, you know, what is the kind of diversity, what is the diverse tastes people have, and they have very successfully built it into their employee profile and also in the way that they service the customer. So they are into a retail space. So they have, you know, they have the businesses structured into 3 different levels. So each one has a different experience based on the kind of customers which comes there. So that was a very interesting meeting. Besides that, Deepa and I attended, in fact, we've just started a course on transactional analysis in the organization development context. So we attended a weekend class. This Saturday, Sunday, we were busy in the class. So that's it from here.
Thank you. Yeah, Mariam, it's been long since we heard from you.
I know. I'm so sorry for that. Huh?
Yeah, tell us.
I'm Mariam.
Yeah.
Okay, can I go?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm Mariam Okumu from Kenya again, Nairobi. I'm sorry I missed so many sessions, but I've been looking at the conversation. I've been following you guys. You're doing a good job. My highlight of the week would be meeting the VSO CEO and talking about social inclusion and equality and how we can promote equality and justice in their programs and even in other programs. Yeah, that's been my major highlight. Thanks, Nan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariam. John?
Yeah, hi everybody. This
Hi.
is John. Got two things to talk about really. I love to be a highlight. So one is a session that we've just done, myself and Mariam. We had a group of about 25 young entrepreneurs. We're in a business school at the moment, and we did a 3-hour session looking at issues around and about what that means for their businesses, or starting new businesses. So we really wanted to get them to think more deeply about the issue. It was really good. It was really good. We had a lot of space and we could move around, and we had quite lively and interesting young people. And secondly, on Saturday I did another session. Another group of young people who are team leaders and other youth volunteers. And that was on facilitation skills. But I was able to do it in a way that we looked at various related issues around inclusion. We had discussions on FGM, female genital mutilation, discussions on gender-based violence, on LGBT issues, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender issues, and you know, looking at what that means for the work they're doing. So I think both of them were really good sessions, really enjoyable. Some of my highlights, anyway.
Okay, thank you, John. Though you kept breaking up, but at least we got the highlights. Yeah, Sajay?
No.
Sergey? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
My name Сергей, я из Варшавы, Польша. Вот, ну, веду техническое сопровождение трансляции.
I'm Sergey, I'm from Warsaw, Poland, and I made technical support of this dialogue.
Any highlights?
Сереж, что-нибудь, что случилось у вас на этой неделе? Что-нибудь важное?
Да, у нас ни дня без приключений. Мы,
Yes, we have each day a lot of magic things.
Когда у нас нет приключений, мы их создаем себе сами.
When we don't have magic, we create them by themselves.
Вот. Вчера, например, ну и сегодня мы есть участниками ОБСЕ по правам человека.
Yesterday and today we are involved in international conference of OBSE and about this conference about human rights.
Сейчас, ну, пришли, чтобы вывести программу, поэтому с вами.
And right now we are on the conference, and we interrupt our work in this conference to talk with you and to help you, to support your program.
И через 2 часа будем с представителями Google демонстрировать возможности, ну, то, что мы сейчас с вами делаем.
And in 2 hours we have meeting with Google office representative, and we will show our technical opportunities for Poland or for different people in the world, and your conversation, your dialogue activity is main example for this dialogue between us and Google.
Поэтому благодаря вам мы растем вместе с вами.
That's why thank you very much, all of you. We grew up together.
Okay. Hello, thank you for that. Is Oksana with us today?
No, Oksana is not, but we have new participant in our dialogue. Her name is Ludmila. Ludmila,
Hello. Hi.
Hi, my name is Luda and I'm from Ukraine. I'm very new to this project, and I'm sorry I joined you this late. A friend sent me an invite, and that's why I'm here. So if you don't mind, I'll just be listening at this meeting, and then maybe I can contribute in the future.
Okay, if we can just know what your background is and what you do.
I work for this organization called the American Council for International Education, and I'm the alumni coordinator of this exchange program called FLAP. I have a bachelor's degree in teaching English and Chinese, and yeah, but I'm currently just working, not studying anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Very nice to meet everyone.
Okay, welcome
Nice
to our
to meet you too.
meeting. Nice to hear from you. Yeah, so today we were supposed to discuss best practices that we've heard about in inclusion work. And I think we'll follow the same order of anything you might have heard or seen that you think can be a best practice that should be adopted widely. Maybe starting with John. Of course.
Why me?
Because we didn't hear you before.
Okay. Hear me now?
You're not as clear as Mariam was.
Oh, that's funny,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, it's very
Maybe
funny.
Mariam speaks first. Okay, I'll give one example. I'll think of a few more, but the one that comes to mind first. The organisation I work for, VSO Italy, we have a youth program, a youth exchange program, where we get young people from Kenya and young people from UK. They spend 3 months together in another part of Kenya. They do some community projects. They stay together in a host family. They have quite an interesting experience. But there's one group I was thinking about in a place called Kilifi, which is on the coast of Kenya, just about an hour north of Mombasa. And this is about 2-3 years ago. There was a group of, I think, 4 or 5 of the volunteers. They decided to develop their own small campaign, and they came. I think we've been doing this social inclusion training with many different groups. But anyway, one of the projects that these young volunteers came up.
Hello, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you're still breaking up. I don't know
Oh,
how
really?
far you are from the phone.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. Should I start again?
John, don't move when you talk, and don't talk very fast. Stay slower. It will be okay. And don't move.
Without moving. Okay. So there was a group of youth volunteers. And
Hello?
They came up with a tackle gender-based violence. What they did, they got the deputy government, so like the number 2 for that, and they developed like a
John, it's not good connection. We don't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with somebody else.
But that was so clear when you said that, so that's the weird thing.
John, I understood that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just
what I understood, you made exchange youth program between the UK and Kenya, and this program was leading during 3 months. Yes.
Yeah, sure. And what some of the volunteers did, they developed a poster where they got the deputy government, like the number 2 is politics.
Okay, great. John, could you use chat and put in your chat results of this program?
No,
I will very appreciate to you if you put the results, because it's very bad sound.
Okay, just go on with somebody else. We haven't got chat at the moment. So we'll,
Okay, and switch off your microphone, please, also.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can move on to Anu then.
So we have to talk about one of the best practices. Is that the
There
agenda?
was something you mentioned about a client you met who impressed you so much, which
Ah,
I I thought that was the lead up.
no, that was not the lead up. Actually, I didn't. When you said what is a highlight, and then suddenly it just struck that yes, that was definitely a highlight because this is a company which has, I think, some 20,000, 30,000 employees across India, and they have a retail outlet in the sense that they like a shopping mall kind of a thing, and so they cater to all types of people, and so they do, regularly they do these consumer inciting studies to see what is the kind of experience they want, what kind of products do they want, and they have like brought it in the type of people who are there in their stores to manage the crowd, to the type of atmosphere they have built into the in their stores, like for example, Indians love to bargain. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and most of us like this experience of something, buzzing happening around us, like a bazaar kind of feeling. So
Yeah.
these people have got that kind of a feeling which they have brought into the store. Okay, and so that people who walk in feel involved, and people who are also managing, who are their employees, also feel equally involved. So I just looked at it from the point that they have kind of looked at the diversity which is existing and seen how can they make it an inclusive experience, not just for the employees but also for the customers,
Yeah.
and which is where the business case actually comes for most companies. When you try to sell the concept of diversity and inclusion, um, like companies usually look for what is the kind of business sense it makes, and I thought this company has done this very successfully to integrate it. So that was one. We also had another development. I think it was a week or 10 days back. For the first time, the Indian Navy, that is the Naval Defense Forces in India, have allowed women to come into a full-term service, in the sense that earlier women officers, naval officers, were allowed only as a short commission, in the sense that they could work only up to a maximum of 10 to 14 years, and because of this they couldn't avail of retirement benefits, they couldn't even command a ship. So now they have allowed them to do a full term, which is 20 years of service, and also get benefit of all the retirement, like a pension and all the benefits which come if you have worked a full 20 years. So this is a
Was
huge
there a
achievement.
reason? Oh, sorry. Was there a reason why women had to work for the few years? Was there a reason behind that policy?
Yeah, so first of all, for our Indian defense services, even inclusion of women into the defense services started only somewhere in the 90s. And they were on this short commission because they felt that, certain areas, like in a proper combat or a contact kind of war situation, women would not be able to cope with it. And they were only, most of the women who joined were also either in the medical services or in an administrative function as officers, but they were mostly in these kind of areas where not in the actual front fighting or in a combat area. Which is why then their service period was also restricted to 14 years, because if you say 20 years, then the officer should have gone into one of these, or if they are a part of the navy, they should have commanded a ship, which was not
Oh,
being allowed, purely out of consideration that women cannot handle these things because of various reasons. It was more from a protective feeling. Maybe there was an exclusion kind of a thing also, but today, now we have this rule saying that no, women can be taken on in the Indian Navy on a full commission of 20 years with all the benefits. And because they will be here for 20 years, and because the naval rule says that if you have to stay for 20 years and if you have to get your benefits, you should have commanded a ship, you should be at a captain position. So it also means that women will get a chance to grow in the navy, so they will move, they will have more opportunities to grow in the services. So I mean, this was just one thing which kind of hit me when I read that, saying that, okay, here is something which is very promising happening.
Wow, okay. I'm just surprised and wondering if this protective sort of feeling men had is backed by evidence that women can't command a ship. Is it
See,
something
no,
scientific, or
no.
is it just a feeling?
So we don't know, Nancy, and I don't have any proof for that, whether it was protective. So like I said, is it protective? Is it just saying that, women haven't done it? So, could it just be biases which have been there because women haven't done this role? If you look world over also, there are only few countries which have a very active participation of women in defense forces.
It's
Like
true,
Israel
yeah.
has a very large percentage of, I mean, I think almost all the women have to do some years of military service. In our
Yeah.
country, we don't have any compulsory military service.
Yeah, it's true. It's the same for Kenya. We have very few numbers in senior, especially military positions. Zitlana,
Yeah.
I don't know if you need time to translate what she said for Sergey.
I will talk with Sergey later and translate to him after our program. Don't spend time for this.
We want
I
to
will
be
do it.
looking
Don't
at
worry
it.
about it. Yes. And
Okay.
look at the chat, Nancy, and we have a message from Miriam.
Oh, yeah.
You can read
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's from John. My experience is from a youth exchange program run by VSO Jitole in Kilifi, Kenya. A group of the volunteers developed a poster with the deputy governor for the county holding a placard saying, "Let's get rid of gender-based violence," one in English and one in Kiswahili. This was then printed as stickers and posters which were displayed all around the public transport, buildings, and everyone got to see them. It was very powerful because it was a senior male politician making a bold statement against gender-based violence and got people talking and thinking about the issue. I'll send round copies of the posters to everyone. Thanks, John. It was very powerful because it was the same. Okay, John, we'll be waiting for a copy of that. Mariam. Hi, Mariam. Mariam. Hello.
And Miriam has bad connections today. And yes, we have Ludmila, and I'm sure that Ludmila has example from Ukraine because I'm not specialist in this area. I believe that Ludmila knows a lot. Ludmila, is it true?
I don't know if I'm the specialist.
Hello.
Hello?
Ludmila, say. You can say yes.
Yeah. I said that I don't know if I'm the specialist.
Yeah, but okay. From what John said and from what Anu said, I don't know if you have any questions to ask them before we move to your case studies, Svetlana.
And thank you very much. And I'm not really specialist. And Ludmila, I think that Ludmila knows something interesting from Ukraine in this manner. Ludmila, do you have some examples? Maybe you involved with some program because I never involved in program of inclusion.
No, I'm not engaged in any projects yet, but I'm just learning about it. And I would like to be actually.
Okay, so no case studies from you, Svetlana?
Great. And maybe I do this work very often, but never look in this job, in this work from perspective of inclusion, because I like facilitate local communities and local communities conversation between local power, or local government, business, and community. And I organize this dialogue, and I provide joint strategic planning session for communities. And if maybe 50 or more than 50% of participants of this type of conversation are women. And that's why I think that I do practical this job, but never focus on like specialist.
Yeah, but I think that's a beginning. I think those are the case studies we are looking at of of areas where we've shown some element of inclusion, making sure diverse people are involved, like in those meetings. And I was wondering about the women, the men you invite for those events. Do you have any other diverse groups that you make sure to include in those meetings, in those forums?
And what I feel about Ukraine, there is no problem in gender policy in small villages or cities, like middle cities or big cities. I think that we don't have gender problem in Ukraine. We have gender problem in the top level of government, and I don't know, maybe it's not problem. Women, I think that women don't want to go to top positions. But
Okay.
in Ukrainian women are very active in different discussions, different meetings, different conferences. I think that Ukrainian women is one of the most active parts of Ukraine in different kind of discussion, and they involve in different type of decision, except top level.
Which you feel is something they are not interested in, or do you think they lack the opportunity? Why do you think that is so?
I don't know. Maybe Radmila knows this answer. I don't know.
Some women are not fully qualified. They have the desire, but they don't have necessary qualifications. And in many cases, it is true that it's not gender inequality or gender discrimination, but it's just lack of competence. Some women do not. So for women, because of children, sometimes it is hard to combine their work and life, or work and personal life. That's why it can be one of the problems. And it just in general, women in Ukrainian families, if a woman has a family, she has many responsibilities. So probably that's why it causes the lack of time, and she doesn't have enough time to develop her professional life and her career. I think that could be one of the reasons.
Okay, so you're saying the systems or structures are more or less inclusive, but because of the gender-related responsibilities, women are not able to tap into available opportunities, which are there already.
That's from my personal experience, but
Okay.
I can't say that it's in all of the cases, of course.
Okay. Okay, that's quite an interesting perspective, I think, from Ukraine. And now that you said gender doesn't seem to be the major form of exclusion, I was wondering, who are the excluded groups in Ukraine, if not, now that gender is not really an area of exclusion? Which groups do you feel are excluded for the case of Ukraine?
I would say that one of the most excluded groups is people with disabilities, especially physical disabilities, because cities are not disability friendly, and governments are very slow. Local governments are very slow in solving this issue, this problem. So I think that's why not many people who have disabilities, who don't have mental disabilities, but maybe physical disabilities, have jobs that they deserve.
And could I add something?
Yes, please.
And for me, Ludmila, I don't know, maybe you agree with me or not, but for me, the most needed group of inclusion, it's the Ukrainian government and parliament.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. What was it?
I think that Ukrainian government and parliament is more needed of caring right now.
Oh, well, you're right.
Okay, I'm not sure why you feel they are very excluded. I guess that has something to do with the political situation there. Yeah, but Svitlana, so you mentioned that you have no issue with balancing gender and sort of in your forums. I was wondering what the level of participation for persons with disability is in your meetings, in the town meetings you talked about, and if there is any way you try to make sure they're included in those sessions.
Nency, it was a little bit bad sound from you, and I miss your question to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'll also type it as I speak. Yeah, you had talked about having council meetings where you meet different people, and that the number of women to male to female is usually more or less the same. And she's mentioned that the most excluded group she feels are the persons with disability in Ukraine. So I was wondering if you have any participation from persons with disability in your town council meetings.
No, I'm not. I don't have this a lot information about this. I don't know, and I'm very sensitive. Maybe I never touch this area because I don't know how to work with this group of people. But I have experience to work in Ukrainian school, and and for sure I don't know what do you mean disability, because now Ukrainian society is disability, all Ukrainian society, and I don't know who is more who needs more caring, Ukrainian society or Ukrainian or children who are really have disability. I'm sorry how to say in English. Disability, because this, I think that what I feel, and this Ukrainian government and our volunteers work very active in this field. But now we don't have enough specialists, and we don't have enough technology of best practice how to work with society. Because now people will come from our area, and they will come to families, and the role of women are very, very high, very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anu, I don't know if you have any comments on that. Having worked with organizations to support them to be more diverse and inclusive, how will we bring about persons with disability, and what do you think we can do when this whole society seems to be, excluded? Like, where do we start from in a setup where you feel everyone needs some level of support?
Anu, could you switch on your
Anu.
microphone? Mm-hmm. Microphone, switch on it.
Hello, have we lost Anu?
No, we
Yeah.
don't.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, great.
So
yes, fine.
Yeah. So coming to here, India, we have, when we look at the whole, for our gender is also a big issue. Disability is also a big issue. When we look at inclusion, there are various spaces that we need to look at. Currently, most organizations, our companies are looking at the gender to increase the gender ratio. So a lot of focus is on that. Not every company is looking very seriously at disability. Depending on the type of work that they have, some companies bring in disabled people, but the percentage is very, very small. So large part of our work gets done in the space of gender diversity. And how to look at inclusion. So the various things. So one of the key things people are talking about is on inclusive leadership. So starting from the senior level, like what do they understand by inclusion? Do they understand the relevance of having a diverse workforce, whether it is gender, whether it's people with disabilities, people with, your LGBT cultural issues? So do the top people, so anything which is driven from the top, where the top senior most people believe that this works, only then will that whole culture of inclusiveness work in the whole company. So that's the format which is typically used. So a lot of work being done in building inclusive leadership, and then doing work across the company to infuse inclusive culture. So this is done through workshops. It could be done through interventions which last for a few months, where you do follow-up work and things like that. You look at what are, various reasons why, which hampers inclusion, or why, what does one feel when you're excluded. So we make people go through that feeling of being excluded. And everybody would have gone at some point or the other. So it's more through an experiential thing, and that's the kind of work which we do, and many others in this space work in that through that model. And that's how inclusiveness is being built. So if you're working with people with disabilities, for example, if there is somebody who is visually impaired, in that session on inclusiveness, we probably make them go through a simulated exercise where we blindfold them, and then they have to perform certain activities which we take for granted, for example. Or we work with them on this. Sometimes we are very condescending when we are talking to people with disability. And, those people say that, no, you talk to me. If I'm blind, just talk to me saying that I can't see. That's it. You don't have to sugarcoat the words and say I'm like this or like that. I understand what it is. And at the same time, I'm able to work on it. So, how do you respect the individual for who he or she is? So these are various areas in which that we are working currently. Disability is still very nascent in terms of the work that is being done.
Yeah, I think that is what I think John mentioned it last week when he talked about hierarchy of exclusion, where there are various areas of inclusion and people are always battling. I feel this is the most excluded, so there's usually this tug and war of who deserves the most attention. And yet maybe we should act or work in a more collective manner depending on the context, because, for example, a factory that is very physical, you might not get people with physical disability, but there might be another group of people who need support. So depending on the context, that is something to look about. But what I find also interesting is what you mentioned about inclusive leadership. Yeah, because all these things have to come from the top, if the top, of course, there is also the bottom up and top down, but I think if for more success, where more success has been experienced, is where the leadership on it and the issue gets the visibility that is required, the resources required to create a change, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lana, I'm seeing, you've made a comment here. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I add a little bit and ask your question which you put me to chat, and about involving disability people to my meetings which I provide. No, usually disability people will not come to these meetings, but disability people are usually involved in local council meetings, and they are active in this type of meetings.
Oh, okay. So is there a reason why they are not involved in this meeting?
Because I'm not organizer of these meetings in local level, and invitation is open for everybody. And usually I come to local, like in city or village, when everything organized. And I'm not working with participators on local level right now. But if I organize my own event, invitation is really open for everybody. It's open space. It's nobody works special with disability or non-disability people. It's meeting for everybody. It's open space.
Okay.
Nency, one other thing I think which really works for creating inclusion is to have champions for the cause, people who believe in it and who can talk about it more informally. One is to have a formal agenda and drive inclusion, whether it's in a corporate or in a society thing. But if you also have people like, like what we are doing today, we are having a dialogue on inclusion. And I think it goes on Facebook profiles, it goes I mean, it is being shared, and we are talking about this experience. So indirectly, we are trying to create awareness about inclusion. So the same thing, when if we have more such people talking about it, I think that also helps very strongly to build, because then you're doing it without, it's a non-intrusive way, a very comfortable way to build the concept of inclusion.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You're having some champions who can stand for some issues. For example, I've seen that in our government, especially they usually have gender desk, they usually have disability desk, and hopefully moving from there to being more inclusive. Yes, at the beginning, these champions can push for certain things, but just helping it to grow into part of the organization culture so that at the end we don't really need these desks. We have inclusion entrenched in the culture as the sort of end game will be very, very beneficial. And I think also sensitization, I don't know if that is one of the things you work with in your organization, because
Yes,
sometimes it's
yes.
lack of knowledge and lack of understanding of how organizations can be more inclusive. Oh, is John and Mariam back? Okay. Yeah. But maybe having that sensitization session where people are reminded, because most of the time we've had sensitization, I've had people say, oh, but I didn't realize, but I didn't
Yeah,
know that there are
yeah.
these people who I wasn't really going out of my way to involve. You just sort of forget.
And I have a question, guys, to you.
Yeah.
Nancy, you push me this question. And when you say inclusive organization, what do you mean? What does it mean?
So, so when we say inclusion, we mean where every employee feels that they are a part of that organization. It comes voluntarily from themselves. Where they feel they're not excluded. So that natural feeling that I belong here, this place gives me a lot, and I want to give a lot to this place. That's what we mean by creating an inclusive place. That I don't feel like I'm treated differently. Yeah, and it could happen, through anything. So what Nancy said on that sensitization, it's a very, very important part. In fact, we do a lot of work in that, because all of us, have certain biases that we have about each other, about a different person who's from a different region. It doesn't even have to be gender or disability. It could be something like even somebody who studied in a different kind of an educational institution, and how it impacts the way we are viewing them, their work, how we interact with them in the team. So when we talk about inclusion, we're looking at every aspect and saying, basically respecting each other for just who they are.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting what is for Miriam and John, what does it mean inclusive organization?
Oh, let's ask them to type what their understanding is.
Yes.
Yeah. John will have a lot, I'm sure. Because
try
John,
to say, John. Try to say it, please.
Oh, I think we still here. We can hear you. I don't know, can you hear us?
Mariam.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
No,
Yeah, try, please try.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mariam? Hello, Mariam? Okay, hopefully, Mariam, you can type for us your understanding. And John.
Okay, let me
Okay.
So, while they're typing, I have to share this. John was here for this IAF conference in Mumbai, and that's how we got introduced to this dialogue. So John did a very, very wonderful exercise on inclusion, and
is that the power walk?
Sorry,
I wanted to ask if that's the power walk activity.
is that a power? It's that survival thing with. You're creating a new.
A fresh start. Okay, yeah.
Fresh start,
Okay,
yeah.
carry on, please. Yeah.
Okay, and we did that, and many of us like thinking, oh, we are so broad-minded and we are inclusive. And I work in the space of Deepa and I both were there in this workshop. And we work in the space of, diversity and inclusion. And we said, oh, we are like, we're so cool and all that kind of stuff. And when we finished this exercise, it hit us so hard that, out of the 20 professions that he had mentioned, I think 90%, probably more than that, we ticked saying that they were all professions which in our mind we associated it with a male. And many of them a woman could also do. So, it is so deeply, what I realized was that, it is so deeply entrenched in us, this bias of what a person can do and what a person can't do, or automatically what you think a person can do. And that is where I think this whole feeling of exclusion or unconsciously how we exclude somebody starts.
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement there. Yeah, and being familiar with the activity, I have to say, most of these things, it seems our cultural orientation and background
Yes.
makes us assume or have some preconceived ideas about what someone can do or what someone is not able to do.
Yeah.
And it affects the decisions and the choices we make. And in
Yeah.
that way, we end up, of course, excluding some people. But I think it's also good to appreciate that it's a daily learning experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes,
Yes.
you might
Yes.
not be able to know. You assume you're okay, but when you're faced with some activities and some learning points, you learn that maybe you also need to learn. You need to
Yeah.
unlearn some things and to learn some things. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So these
Switzerland.
activities help to be conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Being conscious and aware, self-aware.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Nancy, we have comment from Miriam in chat about
Okay.
what does it mean for her inclusive.
Yeah.
Inclusiveness.
Oh, please
And
read for us. I can't see the
Miriam
comment.
says that the inclusiveness for me should be a deliberate effort for by the people in power to invite the minority of their activities, and even go to an extent of consulting them. They do consult, by most times their views are not taken seriously.
Oh, okay.
It's Miriam and John. It's Miriam and John comment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing by the people in power to invite the minority in the activity. Yeah, I think it's all about just ensuring that everyone is part of the discussions, especially in the things that affect them, so that they also benefit from these opportunities. Yeah, so I think we are all, Svetlana, I don't know if your question has been answered by the various people.
And I have next question about the same topic, about because now there is in Ukraine, we need very much these techniques, how to work with people, with diversity of people, because before 2 years ago, when war started in Ukraine, everybody in Ukraine has understanding that we are one nation, like we nation with like we are united nation, and we are looking for one values for or national idea for whole nation, Ukrainian nation. But now we understand, like maybe now we are under the process of understanding, I don't know, but now we start to understand that Ukraine nation is not like not one. But anyway, we are very different. We are really different. We have really strong diversity right now, and we don't have a practice how to work with this diversity. And certainly facilitation is help, mediation help, but it's not enough. We are only on start of this process in Ukraine. And maybe somebody from you knows a secret how to jump or how to accelerate this process. Because it seems like Ukraine needs for 40 years more for resolve all problems.
Anu, I don't know if you have any comments on that before I make a comment from our experience here. Hello? Sorry, we can't hear you.
Anu, we need your microphone.
Okay, Nancy, please go ahead. I would love to hear your comment.
Yeah, I feel like that process of a country becoming cohesive, sometimes it's a long-term process, and I think some countries, in my personal opinion, have had the advantage of having sort of things that bring them together or people that bring them together. Maybe I'll just give an example of our neighboring country, Tanzania. They had this socialism sort of ideology, and they had a leader who was leading that front, and he seemed to be a leader that was bringing unity and some element of prosperity to everyone, not to a few people. And for that, I feel that he was a force of unity for the country, so that when everyone talks about Julius Nyerere, I feel that that brings us together. The fact that Julius Nyerere was a leader and we all were behind him brings us together. The fact that this is our language, this one language, Kiswahili, we all speak it, it sort of brings people together. But I think some countries don't have those elements, unifying forces to bring them together. So they have a sort of a longer struggle to find things within their diversity to bring them together, because maybe they don't agree on their leaders, they don't agree on their culture, different cultures, different leaders, different languages and all that. So personally, I feel like for them it is a journey to come to that point of inclusion and cohesion. For the case of Kenya, certainly it's a journey we still are on. Maybe there's never a destination, but there's always an improvement, hopefully. In 2007, 2008, we had some issues, political tension that came from our different ethnicity and from an election that people felt was not to their favor, disputed elections, yeah, and at that point we had always assumed we were relatively as issues of conflict.
Couldn't hear you, Nancy.
Nancy, we lose you. Nancy?
And all that. Yeah. Hello.
Yes, we hear.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a daily journey for most countries, and I don't have like a sort of a solution, yeah, on how, for the case, for example, of Ukraine, you can get to a point where things are better, because every day I feel like we are in this delicate space where things can tip off from, it can either be good or bad, yeah. So I don't know about India and whether you have such issues.
On inclusion, yes, we have big issues. We, like I said, we are a vast country, we have vast diversity, and so many regions, regional issues. We have caste, we have religion, we have language. So it's really wide, and inclusion is a big issue for us. So it's not that everybody looks at one ideology and we follow that. No, we are far from that.
Yeah.
And what I hear from you right now is that the role of leader is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
Means it inclusive leadership or leader?
Leadership. Leadership is the quality, leader is the inclusive leader. Yeah.
I want to understand it. Because Nency says in Tanzania, a previous Soviet Union country, like Soviet Union country, and something changed after broken of boards, and Tanzania found leader, and I think that this leader was not inclusive leader, but he has leadership or understanding that nation would be talk one language or something like that, like joiners things. I don't know.
Yeah. I can see time is running out for us. Yeah, but maybe this is something we can keep on discussing. And what we haven't been able to get into are to pull out exactly we've been able to come up to look at inclusive leadership, sensitization, culture, context, and how it affects issues of inclusion and exclusion.
Okay, Nancy,
Yeah.
what kind of resistance he got from people? What level of resistance this leader had from people?
Did
a resistance? I mean, yes.
Okay. Yeah, but
usually a leader has resistance from people.
Yeah, is a fact that most Syrian will support you or the ideology you're pushing for. But sometimes when people see that although a leader is aspiring for a certain ideology, but they're selfless leaders, they sort of get some support even from people of a different understanding of ideology. And I think that was the case for Tanzania, though I'm just an observer from Kenya, so I don't know the internal politics of it. But I'm seeing time is running out, and maybe what we can do, Svetlana, is that we come up with topics that we can continue discussing in the next session. And I feel from your question, you feel like the inclusive leadership topic is something you want us to carry forward to the next session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's logic to talk about this.
Yeah.
And also, like, what is being done, something concrete on how inclusive leadership can be built. I think if we can share some thoughts or even some activities on that will be good.
Anna, are you going to facilitate this conversation?
And
Oh yes, right. I should, right.
Great.
Great. Oh, that's a perfect idea. So maybe can we just go through the highlights for today's session so that we end in the next few minutes?
Okay.
We'll start with Anu.
So I think the biggest highlight was coming to this whole idea on talking of inclusive leadership, also understanding, I mean, great story to hear about Tanzania and Ukraine. Yes, I hear Svetlana talking a lot about it. So, it's sad, but it's also heartening to know that there are other countries who face the same problem that we face. So we have company. But yeah, I think to me the highlights were these and also the job which Miriam and John spoke about, these posters which they have created and they have put and supported by a political leader. I think that's very encouraging.
Svetlana?
And for me, first highlight that we lose John in this conversation. We lost him, and I have a hope that we will have him next conversation, and him and Mariam. And now I have question for next session. What is different between inclusive leadership and facilitative leadership? I leave this conversation with this question.
Okay, that's a good question. Anu will take us through next week.
I will facilitate the discussion. So
yeah. So that will be covered.
I have this question for start of next conversation. And Nancy, we have comments from Miriam in chat.
Oh, please read them for us.
Mm-hmm. And could you read it, because your English better than mine?
Oh yeah, I'm seeing Mariam has shared her example of good practice when she was working with some youth group in Dandora. And one of the leaders happened to be a lady who felt the community was not doing enough for the mentally challenged, especially when its young women were mentally challenged, as they are more vulnerable to sexual harassment, among other forms of harassment. The young female leader went ahead and made it a priority in their activities, and they even managed to fundraise for money to take a lady to a mental hospital. When she was discharged, the youth leader was there to pick her up, and she was given some duties in the group that kept her busy, and you could see she was happy that someone cared for her. and could dismiss the advances of drunk men in the community who previously took advantage of her. Yeah, so I think that also has something to do with the topic of leadership that we'll be discussing next week. So maybe if there's nothing else we have from any other person, any highlights from any other person before we break off?
We didn't hear Ludmila.
Yeah, can we hear your highlights before we break?
Well, so since this was my first meeting with you, I learned about what this project is about in general, and now I know what we'll be talking about at the next meeting. I think that it's great that people from different parts of the world gather together to talk about issues that are common for the whole planet, and this proves that we're really world citizens, not just the citizens of our countries. And I'm glad that we, for example, today I heard many ideas that I could implement in my activities with, whenever I'm doing something. For instance, to blindfold blind people, or other small things that I learned from women from other countries. And I think that that's a great opportunity. So thank you for having me here today.
Okay, anything from Sajay?
Thank you, Ludmila. And I want to say that we try to be useful, and this dialogue program open for each of people in the world, and it's like brainstorming, online video brainstorming for each of countries, because we share in this exchange program. For sure it's more than conference, because we have more open space to share our experience, because when we come to conference we don't have time to talk with each other. We have time to listen to somebody, and this format or form of dialogue allowed us to share very small details of our job or very small details of our thinking.
Thank you, and we hope you'll be joining us next week as well, so that we can discuss and understand more about inclusive leadership.
Yes, and it's very important to understand what does it mean inclusive leadership and leader, inclusive leader and inclusive leadership, because I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah. I think those are the differences we'll be looking at. If there is nothing else, I think we can break off now. If anyone has any questions, please raise it on our email group. And also, we wanted to look at the topics being suggested for next session, so that we have a plan for the next 1 month or so. So if you have any ideas of topics we can cover in the next session, please raise it up on email.
And I asked Ludmila, I'm sorry, Nency, and I asked Ludmila to put your email to chat right now, because we don't have your email, and we include her to our message list.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, I will do it right now.
Thank you, Luda.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Suplana. See you. Bye.
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 Thank you, Anu. Thank you. And thank you, India and Tanzania and Poland and Ukraine also.
Bye.
I'm happy that so many countries in one room.